The 49ers cutting their roster down to 80 players, getting ready for preseason week number 3. At the end, the final training camp practice. Some words from Kyle Shanahan about Jimmy G, about the plan for Thursday's preseason finale, and more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock, Eric Crocker, and Mr. Nick Winkler here on this Winky Wednesday episode at BD Peacock, at Eric_Crocker, at Bay Area Wink on Twitter. Just with those Twitter questions, we love hearing from you. We've got a lot of days here before the season starts after preseason week number 3. We'll probably have to get into some of your questions about the 49ers roster, getting some clues about the roster this week. We have some new cuts to get into, some quotes from Deommodore Lenoir and Trent Williams and Kyle Shanahan that we've got to get into on today's program as well. So a big episode today. Wink, I got to ask you, because we teased it on an earlier episode about the running backs, and I did not get my official prediction of who I think the running backs will or should be for the 49ers. I think a lot of people, if they listen to this podcast, can probably guess who that might be. But I want to hear yours first, Wink. Who do you think is your guy? Who's the backup quarterback, and who are the running backs for you after 2 preseason weeks?
It's a tough call, right? I mean, you guys mentioned it. I listened to that pod from the other day. Sudfeld did that guaranteed money, right? That kind of puts him ahead of Purdy, I think, going into it. But you look at Purdy and you like what you hear coming out of camp too. Is he's super accurate? You know, he's not missing passes. He's picked up the playbook. He really gets it. You know, so you figure if you try to sneak a guy like that onto your practice squad, there are a lot of teams out there that are looking for a second, or some teams even carry a third quarterback. I don't think the 49ers are going to do that. But if you try to sneak him on, he might not get picked up. Or, you might be able to get him on there. That being said, is Sudfeld the guy that you feel comfortable with in the future? You know, if something were to happen, to Trey Lance, or maybe he all of a sudden loses his love of football and he walks away. That stuff happens. I don't want to talk about injuries or anything like that, but you want to hand the franchise off to somebody else too. And they drafted Purdy. This is a guy that they picked out. It was the last pick of the draft, but it was still, this is a guy that they like. And I've liked what I've seen so far, too. Again, it's against third and fourth stringers, but it's a tough call. Me personally, with $2 million, when you're sitting on, what, $20-something million for Garoppolo, I think that's probably somewhere if Garoppolo does get shipped out, which we all believe he's going to. He's not going to be around come opening day. But it just feels to me like Purdy is the guy that you would go with. Right? I mean, he's the future. He's younger. You picked him out. You hand selected this guy. So I like that. I think that's where you're going. As for the running backs, that's much, much more difficult for me because, Elijah Mitchell, obviously, they got Jeff Wilson. They've been sneaking around. So then what? Where do you go with that, right? Do you cut ties with Trey Sermon and you get rid of that third-round draft pick? Do you do the same with Price? Like, it's like, and you got to love what you've seen from Hasty. He's explosive. He's probably going to be your kick returner. But then there's Mason. It's like, I honestly, I don't know where they're going to go with that. I don't envy them because I don't think you're going to be able to sneak any of those guys onto the practice squad.
And Croc, wouldn't it make sense to keep only 2 quarterbacks so you can keep an extra running back or keep an extra DB or keep an extra defensive lineman where you're really heavy on players, and you're kind of hoping that your backup quarterback doesn't play. You're definitely hoping your third string quarterback doesn't play. Right. Is it worth trying to sneak a 7th round pick, or just saying, hey, we like the 7th round pick in Purdy, so journeyman quarterback Nate Sudfeld, we love you, but we're going to go 2 quarterbacks?
I don't get caught up on 7th round quarterbacks. I feel like Kyle and those guys, they can identify that type of quarterback in pretty much any draft. So even if you let him walk and you try to bring him back on practice squad, but you can't because someone claims him, well, there's another similar style quarterback to Brock Purdy in the draft next year that you can get in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. Look what the New England Patriots did. They drafted Mac Jones with the 15th overall pick. What they do this season, they turned around during the draft and drafted Bailey Zappi out of Western Kentucky in like the 4th round, right? So you don't have to go that high with 4th round to get someone who you feel will be a legit backup. But 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, you'll find someone that is similar to him. So I wouldn't let Brock Purdy hold me hostage for the chance that he might play, or even if you're thinking kind of long term, I guess there's another guy like him next year. Give me that roster spot so I can have that extra running back that you definitely need. I mean, the 49ers lose backs like I feel like no other right now. I mean, and it sounds like, Coach Kyle Shanahan talked about Elijah Mitchell being ready for week 1, but you just don't know. He's been banged up so much since being with the 49ers. Jeff Wilson runs hard, but he's been banged up so much. I mean, all these guys have faced so much adversity with injuries. I'd rather keep an extra running back as opposed to a third-string quarterback who really may never touch the field.
You hope never touches, yeah.
I totally agree. And I think there's a good enough chance that someone like Brock Purdy would clear waivers and you get him back on the practice squad. And
real quick, Peacock, most teams have a Brock Purdy.
Right.
Like most teams, and what I mean by that is like just this guy that is like, well, we like him, but you know what I'm saying? It's not like people are like, oh, we just hate our backup, so let's go get Brock Purdy. Like, I don't think that's how teams are necessarily thinking, not to that extent.
I mean, teams aren't even willing to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's a starter. They're going to go get a third-string quarterback in Bailey Zappi, and they can't wait to bring him in. Obviously, financially, it's a very different situation there. But and I think you need that veteran backup. You need the coach on the field guy. You're going to back up Trey Lance with a rookie, a first-year starter being backed up by a rookie. I don't know about that.
That's what they did with Cousins and RG3, but still a different situation because they technically didn't want to draft RG3. Like, that wasn't the Shanahan's guy, and Kirk Cousins was actually Kyle Shanahan's guy, and they were able to get him. You know who they were going to get, right? Do you remember? Have you heard this conversation about who they actually wanted to draft? Who Mike Shanahan wanted to draft in the 2nd round? So remember, they were forced by the owner, Dan Snyder, to draft RG3 at number 2 overall. I think they actually even traded up. But if the Shanahans had it their way, Mike Shanahan would have drafted Russell Wilson in the 2nd round.
Wow.
That's right. That would have been funny if they would have gotten Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins.
Right.
Who could they have drafted at number 2 that year? That was 2012. So it was Andrew Luck, then RG3. I wonder what kind of a player they could have gotten, a non-quarterback there that would have changed the trajectory of that coaching staff, maybe save some jobs if they would have ended up with Russell Wilson.
I'm talking about him like he just can't be a good quarterback, right? And I don't mean it that way with Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Right.
Just in the sense of,
I hear what you're saying.
like, the style of quarterback that he is, some of the limitations that he has. Typically, that is someone that goes a little bit later in the draft, right? Like, how many starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now were drafted in the 7th round? Like, it's very, very rare. Now, obviously, people are going to point to where Tom Brady was drafted, and that was for different scenarios. That wasn't a guy who started every year, then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, he slips in the draft. Well, no, they kept trying to take him out, and you had the Drew Henson type thing, and that whole situation, and it was like, okay, well, we like his mindset, and he's tough, and he can play, but Brock Purdy, that caliber of quarterback that he is, I truly believe, if you really want to, you can find him in the 4th, 5th, 6th round next season.
Yeah, I feel like you were kind of comparing him to Nick Mullins too the other day, right? Like a little more athletic, similar arms,
a little more athletic, but similar. Just in the sense of what maybe the limitations are, and that's a solid backup. Like Nick Mullins was a solid.
Vikings went out and
backup.
got him. They wanted him. They brought him in.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, they gave it like a conditional, 2029 7th round pick.
They're clearly not happy with their backups.
Save the roster spots. Roll the dice with Brock Purdy that he'll make it back to the practice squad. Every team has those guys they hope other teams aren't going to claim. Because remember, if you claim a guy, you don't put him on your practice squad. You put him on your 53-man roster. Everybody has those guys, and fewer players get claimed than you think. And so I don't think it hurts you that much if you lose Brock Purdy. He could be a long-term backup for you, but it's not like he's going to be a future starter for you, even though there's things to like about. I've heard people say he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'm just like, you people got to calm down a little bit. You got to calm down with some of these things. But keep the veteran. You got to keep the veteran quarterback. Okay, so let's say you have to cut one running back then really quick. Croc, one running back. You have to cut one guy. No trades. You have to cut one running back. You can't keep them all.
Jeff Wilson.
Ooh. Wink?
Trey Sermon.
I think Trey Sermon
can't throw good money after bad money, right?
Well, the only reason why I say Jeff Wilson is because I just watched this kid out of Georgia Tech, and he runs identical to Jeff Wilson. And I feel like he's a Jeff Wilson clone. So I don't think I'm like necessarily missing anything. And I love Jeff Wilson. I love the way he runs. He's one of my favorite backs on the team. But just in the sense of just roster politics, like value, etc., I probably let him go because I have a guy who I feel like brings that same dynamic. Now, again, Trey Sermon, I'm gonna see just a little bit more. Okay. But if not, if you get beat out by the undrafted kid out of Georgia Tech, then okay, at the end of the year, I'll probably just let Trey Sermon go.
Yep. And I wouldn't be shocked if it was Hasty either. So Sermon or Hasty, Wilson, just because, he's a veteran player. He's not on his rookie contract anymore. I could see that. He's been banged up throughout his career, although I think the 49ers want him to be running back too, or that's where he's on the depth chart right now. So I think if I had to guess, I think it's going to be Hasty maybe. But I think there's an opportunity to trade one of those guys too. Maybe Sermon. Trade Sermon would, I think, be the ideal scenario. 3rd round pick from last year. Somebody had to like him. He's still a younger player. Can you make a move like that?
I'd be a little not shocked with Hasty, but Hasty, it's clear he has a specific role with the team. So they'd have to show me that they have somebody else that like fits that role, right? And I talked about this when Jimmy Garoppolo did the little Michael Johnson behind the back no look interception to end the Rams game, to end the season, right? Yeah. Who was he throwing to? He was throwing to JaMychal Hasty.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest moments of the game, like in the season, he was on the field. They have a legitimate role for him. He's your 3rd down back, So can someone else be that guy? I don't know who would that be?
Right. It's not Sermon.
I take it back. Roster politics. Right. No, you could make a really good argument for all those guys, but just think about roster politics. And I take back what I said. If I had to bet who it is, Jordan Mason's the guy that gets cut. And I think he does get picked up somewhere.
Yeah.
But there's a chance that he makes it back. And I think the 49ers would keep a 3rd rounder from last year over Mason. Most teams, I think, would make that move. Not the move I would do, but I think that's what the 49ers might end up doing if they can't facilitate some sort of a trade. Or guess what? Oh, someone got hurt. Now you're on IR for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is.
Right. That's the most likely scenario right there.
That might be the one. Yeah. Let's see who comes up with that injury. Oh, you're limping a little bit? Okay. You're going on IR, Trey. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So next, let's get to some of Kyle Shanahan's comments, some of Deommodore Lenoir's comments as well, and the roster movement for the 49ers to get down to 80 before preseason week number 3. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. You know that LinkedIn Jobs has 810 million people on it, right? Because you're on it. And at LinkedIn Jobs, all you have to do is add your job to the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skill set and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond on the world's largest professional network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview starting August 31st, an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local team experts on Locked On Podcast Network and Odyssey NFL Insiders all combining into one Ultimate NFL Preview starting August 31st. Search for Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, fellas. The Jimmy Garoppolo story won't die. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it today, but I do have a quote here from Kyle Shanahan post-practice, who was asked if in a certain scenario with injuries, is it possible that Jimmy Garoppolo could actually roll with the 49ers and be on the team this year? Namely, if your starting quarterback, Trey Lance, was injured. That wasn't the exact part of the question that was asked, but that was what was intimated in this question. And here was, unsurprisingly, Kyle Shanahan's answer.
I can't guarantee that anybody in the world will be alive Sunday.
Basically, that wasn't exactly what he said. That's an old quote from Kyle Shanahan. But that was basically the answer. Kyle's like, yeah, pretty much anything could possibly happen. If Trey Lance breaks his leg on Thursday, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the starting quarterback for the 49ers, right? I think that's the way it's been the whole time. So, there's 31 other starting quarterbacks that could get hurt, create a market for Jimmy Garoppolo. A market could possibly still get created for the 49ers, and then you have to figure out who you're keeping at quarterback. And I don't think that's going to happen. Knock on wood, Trey Lance is not going to get injured, but I just thought it was that funny Shanahan quote where he's like, yeah, who knows? Anything can happen. A lot of people made a big deal about what Jed York said.
Did you hear how they questioned it? I mean, how they framed the question?
What, the Jed York question or the Kyle question?
The Kyle question.
I think it was Kawakami
or the
asked
Jimmy Garoppolo Kyle question.
Yeah. I think it was Kawakami that asked it, and it was basically framed like, is there any scenario that could possibly play out the backup plan to the backup plan where Jimmy Garoppolo somehow is the quarterback? Basically, that's why I was saying, paraphrasing, the question is, if Trey Lance breaks his leg tomorrow, does Jimmy become the starter again?
Yeah. I mean,
so wait, how serious of an injury do you think it needs to be for something like that to happen? If he pulls his hamstring, playing in the game on Thursday night, is that enough?
No, I think it's like the Deshaun Watson question, except for it's with the 49ers. If it's all year, then maybe you need Jimmy. If it's 11 weeks, maybe if it's 8 weeks, maybe you roll with Sudfeld or something like that. It would have to be a year long, like major injury, torn ACL, something like that.
Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't even have a playbook. He's never even been in a meeting this year.
That's true.
I'm not saying that they can't, turn that around and they form something that works for him, but
sure.
I feel like they've told you what their intentions are.
And he
this is Trey Lance's team.
Yeah, he hasn't been around for like whatever they're installing new stuff. Well, I mean, a lot of the stuff they're installing is specifically for Trey Lance anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. You just roll it back to the old playbook because how much is going to change, right? The other players would be like, what the hell? But Jimmy's like, oh, I already know this stuff. It's my old playbook. Cool.
Terminology is the same, I'm sure.
Kyle also did say something important, which was that the starters are going to play up to a full half of football on Thursday. So that'd be fun, and maybe he sees enough and he pulls them before the first half, but likely something close to a full half for the ones on Thursday against the Texans.
Maybe fun to watch.
Jason Verrett placed on the PUP list. Kalia Davis, rookie 6th round pick, placed on the NFI list. This is funny because the 49ers had to make 5 roster moves. All 5 of them were termed differently. So Jason Verrett placed on the reserve PUP list. So he's going to miss for sure at least the first 4 weeks with his injury. That creates 1 roster spot. So they had to go from 85 to 80. Kalia Davis, we already knew he was going to end up on a form of IR, which is the NFI list, non-football injury, which just means he didn't get hurt with the 49ers. He got hurt before he was with the 49ers. So that's the NFI list that Kalia Davis.
Does he still get paid?
No. So this is what's kind of screwed up with this is if he stays on the NFI list all year long, the way I understand it, he never had a rookie season. So he's a rookie next year and then has 4 years of a rookie contract.
Wow.
Gosh, that's tough. Because maybe he gets some
he
type
gets
of stipend.
paid in some kind of way, but I don't think he gets the normal salary.
It's got to be something.
Yeah, because, I mean, just think about it, you being a 21, 22-year-old kid coming out of college and just not only do I not have I have a job, but I don't have a job. I think if he shows up, he gets something. Like if he's showing up to the facility and he's there, there's some type of compensation. I mean,
because he has to live in the Bay Area too.
Well, hey,
how are you going to live in the Bay Area with no salary?
Whatever he gets paid is more than I got paid when I was 22 and just out of college and living in the Bay Area. So he'll get paid something.
I'm definitely going to be staying with one of my teammates.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dude, you see Debo is just popping the champagne. He bought a new house. I'm rooming with Debo for sure. Nice little pool in the backyard.
He's got a pool house in the back.
I don't know if that was
Debo, I know we don't know each other, but I talk about that. Like offensive players and defensive players, a lot of times you might not really have any type of real interaction with this guy. So there's a chance that Debo and Davis just haven't really had a conversation.
I'm sorry, who are you?
totally possible. Yeah, like he bumps into him at the club. He's like, I don't know you. Like, are you tall enough?
Hell, I've seen you around before.
So your boy Tanner Hudson, Croc, was released. Jeremiah Gemmel, undrafted free agent linebacker, was waived. So we've got a pup, an NFI, a release, a waived, and then we've got offensive lineman Sam Schluter, another undrafted rookie free agent that was waived / injured. So apparently he had an injury, so it's the same kind of deal. He gets put on IR. If he does clear waivers, he can go back to the 49ers IR. Jeremiah Gemmel could come back to the 49ers practice squad, as could Tanner Hudson still. So those are the 5 players that the 49ers moved around in different capacities to bring them to 80 players now for preseason week number 3.
Yeah, I mean, no big surprises there, right? I mean, the Verrett thing makes a whole lot of sense too. You know, they're just being extra cautious with him. Mosley's back. You know, I love what I saw from Lenoir the other day too. So I think it was a good move.
More, I'm glad. Thank you for that segue, actually, Wink. More on Deommodore Lenoir in a second. John Lynch did say that the 49ers are just being safe, quote unquote, with Jason Verrett. There have been no setbacks. His season ended in week 1 last year, and usually you like to have a full year, so he'll have gone over the full year mark by the time he's ready to come back after 4 weeks of the NFL season. So that is that with Jason Verrett, and who knows what it'll look like at that point. And hopefully he's it gives the 49ers an extra bit of depth and something to fall back on if somebody else gets hurt. Maybe even Charvarius Ward, his injury lingers, or Jimmy Ward's injury lingers. I'm starting to worry about some of these injuries. Jimmy Ward and Mike McGlinchey and week 1s are in doubt.
Week 1's right around the corner.
Whew, it's coming close. Well, they do have a nice 17 days off of no games, which I kind of hate. That's just too much time after Thursday all the way until September 11th, is it, right? And we don't the Thursday night game isn't even until September 8th, so there's plenty of time. Plenty of time to get healthy. Plenty of time for us to just like twiddle our thumbs and be like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Way too much.
Yeah, way too much. Okay, next. Deommodore Lenoir, a quote from Trent Williams about Jason Poe, who's getting some first-team work, which kind of surprised Kyle Shanahan, which I thought was hilarious. And Croc, I have a question for you about some cornerback technique, especially when you are covering someone as freaky athletic as maybe a tight end like Kyle Pitts. That is coming up next after I tell the folks out there about betonline.net, the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. You've got lines on Trey Lance. You can bet on Trey Lance to be MVP of the league this year. You can bet on the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. You can bet on the over-under of 3,100 passing yards for Trey Lance this year. Kind of leaning to the over. I think his rushing total is somewhere around 600 yards. You could go with the over under. So tons of stuff to bet on. I've already put money on the over of 12 sacks for Nick Bosa this season. And you can too at Bet Online, which continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, podcasts. They have you covered. Get over to Bet Online today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening right now at Bet Online, where the game starts. So I thought it was hilarious. Kyle Shanahan was asked about Jason Poe taking first-team reps, and it was almost as if Kyle Shanahan did not even know that Poe was taking first-team reps. And he said, basically, he's like, "Wait, what do you mean, the game?" And then someone said something else. I couldn't hear it. And he said, "Oh, I don't know, Chris Forrester's always moving guys around and doing something." So it didn't seem like that big of a deal. But to me, I mean, Chris Forrester, the offensive line coach for the 49ers, you're putting an undrafted rookie free agent in there ahead of your second round guard from last year, and he's the only other left guard that's gotten first team work so far this preseason or camp or anything that I've heard from any reports all the way back to OTAs. There may be something to it. And Trent Williams said about rookie undrafted guard Jason Poe, quote, "He's strong as an ox and quick as a cat." So there you go. There's the scouting report from Trent Williams on young Jason Poe. But it was I almost felt like we have to pump the brakes on it once I heard Kyle Shanahan acting like he didn't even realize that Poe was taking some first team reps at left guard.
They do different things in practice with the line, and I feel like because I remember being at training camp practices, not this season, but when I had the privilege to be credentialed, and there would be some weird combination of receivers in there. And I don't even think Kyle knows which receivers are in and who's out. I think it's more so on the position coach. But with that, like you said, I mean, nobody else is taking first team reps at the guard position. I think there's at least something to that to where maybe Forrester's like, let me just see something real quick.
Yeah, maybe Kyle's like, whoa, hey, shh. We're trying to get this guy on the practice squad. Like, shut up.
Yeah, well, I think it's too late. That's the problem. It's like, I think Poe gets picked up quicker than Brock Purdy. Yeah. I think Jordan Mason gets picked up quicker than Brock Purdy. Maybe I'm way off on that, but I don't know. That's just the way I see it. Because a lot of teams still only keep two quarterbacks, and they've got their starter and their backup fully entrenched as it is. So very few teams would even keep a third anyway, as far as quarterbacks go. Croc, real quick before we talk about Deommodore Lenoir, who talked about some things that I didn't even know about the struggles of his rookie season. Do you know what Kyle Pitts is talking about when he says he saw the cornerback that was covering him in the preseason Monday Night Football game was scared pedaling? I think was the term he used.
I have never heard
scared pedaling for us.
Yeah, I've never heard scared pedaling before, but I think I know what he's talking about. And it's funny because my guy Will Blackman was like, oh man, I've been in that situation before, like where I was like scared of Andre Johnson running at me. And then shortly after that, the quote from Pitts was about scared pedaling. So Will Blackman was right on with what he was saying from the defensive back, saying like, yeah, he was out there scared, this unicorn. And it's tough. Maybe just a little hesitant. To me, it looked more like he was kind of sitting on an underneath route, and he was just way wrong because Kyle Pitts just went screaming right by him. And unfortunate for Hall, who I actually really like Hall coming out.
Yeah, and you would think that was the perfect guy. You're like, oh, we got this big corner. He's our guy that we could probably man up on a player like Kyle Pitts.
But Pitts ran in the 4.4 is at 6'6", 245, right. So it's not.
Yeah,
he's not even,
Pitts is a freak of nature. Yeah, stuck to the ground a little bit, and he had them all discombobulated. But to me, it was more like bleep pedaling, not scared pedaling. It was like, oh, this is the tight end. I'm cool. I can turn and run with the tight end, so I can sit on this route. And it looks like he's going to run a dig maybe. And so you kind of were sitting on that. And you're like, he's a tight end. I can run with the tight end. And he's like, oh, you know what? I cannot run with this tight end. That was crazy. I mean, that was more special from Pitts than it was like bad from Hall, in my opinion.
He's lucky he had to slow down for it a little bit.
Right, or he was
he was able to catch up and tackle it. So speaking of the 49ers cornerback, Deommodore Lenoir, this is so strange, right, Croc? Remember last year, Deommodore Lenoir came out hotter after the draft, and then eventually he kind of like found his way off the field, and then Ambry Thomas came on and ended the year hot, made big plays in big situations and big games, and now Ambry Thomas kind of has taken a back seat. Deommodore Lenoir again is kind of playing better, and he's working in the slot a little bit, and then Deommo, it's Deommo, Croc, that his sister said that they call him?
Yep.
Deommo.
She said some people call him Demo, and some call him Deommo. She calls him Deommo.
Deommo. Well, if sister calls him Deommo, I'm going to call him Deommo. And he said that it was a whirlwind season for him as a rookie, which I'm sure it always is anyway for most rookies. But he lost his cousin during the year, and then his brother was paralyzed. And that he was going through all of that during last season. And now he says he feels so much more comfortable. And then talking about playing the nickel, he said, I would actually say it's more fun playing the nickel. You get to blitz, get in the run game, get your nose dirty. That's my kind of style. And Croc, we've been talking about it. We're like, why isn't Deommodore Lenoir getting coached up to be the next nickel for the 49ers? They knew that K'Wan Williams is going to be a free agent this year. I'm surprised it took him this long to put him in the nickel because he's clearly built for it, right?
He looks and moves like a nickel, and the fact that he takes on the responsibility of the physicality that the nickel position requires. Yeah, like I'd assume it was a no-brainer. I actually thought it was weird being at practice and not seeing him get work in a nickel. And I was actually surprised because it hadn't been really reported that he was getting nickel reps. And I guess maybe nobody's just paying attention to it. Maybe he was all along. But seeing him in the Vikings game, I'm like, okay, Lenoir in the nickel spot. Okay, let me see it. And he was making plays and it looked good. And I'm like, well, yeah, I think that's more of his natural position.
Wink, how excited are you for this rookie class of 49ers? We're talking about how good guys like Jason Poe and Jordan Mason, undrafted players, are playing. You've already got one plug-and-play starter at right guard, it looks like, with Spencer Burford. Poe might sneak in there and steal a starting job. That'd be crazy to have two rookie starting offensive linemen from one draft class, and neither one of them was drafted, above pick 130 or whatever, 138. I can't remember what pick number Spencer Burford ended up being, but and then obviously you had no first round pick, but Drake Jackson looks like a freak of nature that is has got a ton to work with. We'll see what happens with Ty Davis Price and Danny Gray. If nothing else, is clearly fast, and we've seen him make a few big plays right down the field. So this is looking like a stellar rookie class, and again, by the later round picks, day 3 undrafted guys. The 49ers are mining so many good players late in drafts. It's really been what has propped up this roster.
It's exciting, right? I mean, on both sides of the ball. You mentioned the two big names there are obviously Gray and I think Jackson. Those are guys that even if they don't see a lot of time on the field, I think that they're game changers. They're guys that even their presence just on the field, especially with Danny Gray, he checks in. Defenses are going to be like, oh, we got to account for Gray. He's got the speed. We need to make sure we're covered deep. Maybe even it brings the safety over or something. Then it opens up so much more. And with Jackson too, I mean, that's exciting. You get him opposite Bosa, and obviously he's going up against some third and fourth stringers. Not the best competition there so far, but you got to like what you've seen so far. And you're talking about rookies and all this. I think the most exciting guy might be a guy who missed a lot of time last year, and that's Javon Kinlaw. I mean, what that guy's putting together so far in the preseason, I know it's preseason, I know it's practice, but that could be huge. This defensive line could be the best in football. I really think it could be, and it probably will be if everybody stays healthy too, because we're not even talking about Armstead. This is an awesome. I really like what they did in the draft. I really like how the second-year guys are starting to come along as well. It's exciting to see.
And a lot of people have talked about that quote from Brandon Ayuk, who said he was bored and thought it was a waste of time practicing in Minnesota. And some people took that as that maybe it was just too easy against those guys. And yeah, the 49ers second stringers are pretty darn good too. So even the guys like Jason Poe, it's like what he's doing in practice is just as impressive as what we're seeing in the second half of preseason games. In fact, in a lot of ways, more impressive, and he's holding up there too. So I think whatever the 49ers offense is doing against the 49ers defense, it's definitely an iron sharpening iron situation. And I think the 49ers offense should be excited rather than bored, having the opportunity to take on some other defenses that aren't as good, that they're seeing every day in practice. All right. I think we've gone over time here. We got to get rolling. Wink, thank you for jumping on another extremely successful Winky Wednesday.
My pleasure, gentlemen.
Croc and I, of course, as always, back tomorrow. It's already time to preview preseason week number 3. Then we'll have it all broken down, probably go live right after the game Thursday night. I haven't run that by Crocky yet, but I think that's what the plan might be. And we'll keep this thing rolling all the way into the regular season, coming at you every day right here. Locked On 49ers.
See ya.